Good evening. This is Witch Rising with Reverend Mary Hall. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I do have the chat on, and it didn't come across, but all opinions expressed here are just mine and do not reflect Pagan World TV or Pagan World Project Limited. And today we are going to discuss gun violence. As a lot of people know, I live a little north of Nashville, Tennessee, and I called Nashville home for many years. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining me. And on Monday, March 27th, Audrey Hale shot his way into the Covenant School and killed 6 people. That is 3 9-year-old children, Evelyn DeCoss, Hallie Scruggs, and William Kinney. Also killed were Catherine Kuntz, age 60, the head of the school, Mike Hill, 61, a custodian, known as Big Mike to the children, and Cynthia Peak, age 61, a substitute teacher. Hi, Pam, and hello, Bradley. Thank you for joining me. And back to tonight's topic, I'm just going to come right out and say at this point, I am one pissed off grandma. My youngest grandchild is 8, and she's attends school, and this pisses me off and scares me all at the same time. I also want to add a that we owe a huge vote of gratitude and thanks to Metro Police officers Michael Colazzo and Rex Engelberg, who are the ones who did respond quickly and rushed several Metro officers responded quickly, rushed into the school, but they are the ones credited with confronting the shooter and ending his life. Of course, now there are a lot of questions unanswered as to exactly why this happened. But we have got to stop this. Full stop. I am sick to death of hearing about children dying in school. And good evening, Curdware. And Curdware says, I'm just going to show your comment, Curdware. Good evening, Mary. This is a serious issue, and I don't see why this is not being discussed and dealt with prior to near anything else in the nation. It's disappointingly sad and angering, and it is. It absolutely is. We are the only first world country with this kind of issue. And I'm happy to entertain all conversation and debate as usual. And my email address is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, witchrisingpwtv@gmail.com. And I am going to share my screen with you. And we're going to look at a report from CNN. And this is from Wednesday, March 29th at CNN.com. You can look it up yourself. Firearms account for nearly 19% of childhood deaths ages 1 to 18 in 2021, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Wonder database. Nearly 3,600 children died in gun-related incidents that year. That's about 5 children lost for every 100,000 children in the United States. In no other comparable country are firearms within the top 4 causes of mortality among children. And the top 5 causes of mortality in 2020, number 1 was firearms. Number 2, motor vehicle traffic accidents. Number 3, we had cancer. We had suffocation at number 4 and poisoning at number 5. There have been 130 mass shootings so far in 2023, the highest number of shootings recorded at any point in any year since at least 2013, according to data from the Gun Violence Archive. Children and teen mortality overall surged during the COVID-19 pandemic, driven not by COVID-19 deaths, but by fatal injuries, according to a new study in the Journal of American Medicine. As the Journal of JAMA, which is the Journal of the American Medical Association. Firearms accounted for nearly half of the increase in mortality in 2020. And I am back. I will add, I can't actually see you when I'm sharing my screen like that. And so, folks, something has to give here. Absolutely. Brantley says it's so frustrating and sad, all of the needless shootings. It really, really is. And I'm going to tell you, I grew up in a home with guns. My father was a rifle range instructor in the Army Reserve. He was in the Army Reserve because he was deaf in one ear and the regular Army would not take him even during Vietnam. He was a rifle range instructor and he had the highest marksmanship rating you could get. And I was taught to respect a weapon, not to fear it, but respect it. And I'm just going to say right now, I favor banning assault weapons. I don't favor banning handguns. I don't favor banning rifles or shotguns. But weapons that were designed to kill a large number of people in a very short time and were designed for the battlefield just don't need to be in civilian hands. You can email me and yell at me. You can yell at me in chat if you want to. And again, I'll state that is my opinion and not the opinion of Pagan World TV. And Kerdra adds that he has a list of the school shootings and it goes through 12 pages of schools with these catastrophes. Children and parents having to worry whether they will have a child come home from school. I was a foster child and school was my safe haven. Other children, let's see, other children who have seen school the same way I have no longer have that. The safety of well-being of children is being placed on the wrong focus. I would like to know what it would take to get the legislatures to see that. And Bradley says, I think we should take away the ability for special interest groups like the NRA to give politicians money. And I'm going to add that. Let me find the right clip here and I will share it with you. So what can we do about this? All right, so Representative Tim Burchett, Republican from Tennessee, on the steps of the Capitol said, "We're not going to fix it. Legislation is not going to fix it. I don't see any real role we could do other than mess things up," he said on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. "I don't think you're going to stop the gun violence. You've got to change people's hearts." So, hello, Galili. I hope I said that right. Hi, Noreen. And Noreen says, "I teach in a preschool. We have to do drills with these little children in case of an intruder. So sad." Hi, Carla. Good to see you. And yes, it is sad. Both of my grandchildren learned within the first week of kindergarten what to do if there is an active shooter. I have included in that call on your ancestors, call on your mom, and call on Aunt Cat. They're coming. Trust me. In this situation, they'll be right there. And it is very sad that we have to do this. Now, let me find this that I would like to share with you. All right, this is the one I'd like to share. Just a moment. Okay, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Just a moment. Let me try this again. All right. And no, I'm not joining the AP. But, and this is from AP News. Last year, we did have a bipartisan bill approved, and this law has already prevented some potentially dangerous people from owning guns. Yet, since that signing last summer, the tally of mass shootings in the U.S. has only grown. But we have had some success. Stepped up FBI background checks have blocked gun sales for 119 buyers under the age of 21. Prosecutions have increased for unlicensed gun sellers, and new gun trafficking penalties have been charged in at least 30 countries in 30 cases around the country. So, we actually do have some proof that gun legislation works. And here is that article that I was showing you, or that I wanted to show you. This is from the AP. Although it seems unlikely that anything else is going to happen right now. However, new legislation has been introduced in the House and the Senate. So I'm going to show you one more. And yes, this is from Senator Feinstein's website, but it's got a really good, easy to read text of the bill. It's called the Assault Weapons Ban. It was introduced in January in both the House and the Senate. It would the sale, manufacture, transfer, and importation of 205 military-style assault weapons by name. Owners can keep existing weapons. Bans any assault weapon with the capacity to use a magazine that is not a fixed ammunition magazine and has one or more military characteristics, including a pistol grip, a forward grip, a barrel shroud, a threaded barrel, or a folding or telescoping stock. Owners may keep existing weapons. Bans magazines and other ammunition feeding devices that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition, which allow shooters to quickly fire many rounds without needing to reload. Owners may keep existing magazines. Requires a background check on any future sale, trade, or gifting an assault weapon covered by the bill. Requires that grandfathered assault weapons are stored using a secure gun storage or safety device like a trigger lock. Prohibits the transfer of high capacity ammunition magazines, bans bump fire stocks and other devices that allow semi-automatic weapons to fire at fully automatic rates. The bill exempts by name more than 2,200 guns for hunting, household defense, or recreational purposes, and the bill also includes a grandfather clause that exempts all weapons lawfully possessed at the date of enactment. Under current federal law, an individual is required to be at least 21 years old to legally purchase a handgun, but only 18 years to purchase an assault weapon such as an AR-15. The legislation would create parity in federal firearms law by prohibiting the sale of assault weapons to individuals under 21. So, that is what is in Congress. That's what could be passed. The question is whether or not it would be. So, but a bigger problem, and weigh in, folks. You don't have to just listen to me talk. You can make comments, is our gun culture, you could call it. We seem to idolize guns in our country. Yes, the Second Amendment does give us the right to own weapons. And Corey says, Auntie, I think it won't pass. And hello, nephew. The odds are low at this point. However, we can still write and call our representatives and tell them we live in Nashville and we're sick of this and we want it to pass. So that is my thought on that. And we also just have, like I said, this whole gun worship culture. The Second Amendment does guarantee us the right to own weapons. And there is also an argument to be made that by owning weapons, we can rise up and overthrow our government as our ancestors did in 1776. And I have to say that's just not going to happen now. It does not matter what you have in your personal arsenal. You don't own a tank. A tank can roll over your house. The U.S. military has you outgunned. They can drop a targeted bomb on your house and take out your house and some section of your neighborhood. But yes, we no longer have the capacity to rise up against our government in a military manner, as was done in 1776. And Corey, to your point, yes, I am very worried about our trans friends. The Nashville shooter, it is being reported that person is trans. I have not seen any independent verification of that outside of news reports. I will throw that out. I have not seen the social media posts where Audrey was referring to his or herself as him. So, but it's being reported. Bradley points out that when the law was written, we didn't have assault rifles, etc. This is also true. Corey points out that the Second Amendment contains the phrase well-regulated militia, which can be interpreted to refer to the National Guard. And Corey says same, but it's a horrid talking point. It is a horrid talking point. I'm just throwing out that it's being reported, but I can't independently verify that the shooter is or is not trans, or was not trans at this point. But yes, I am very worried about our trans friends at this point because that has been blown out of proportion by certain people. So, and I'm also going to read you something on mental health. It's also been pointed out that we don't have mental health. Let me find the right article here. Uh, that is not it. Basically, in Nashville, I'm looking for my article and it may have closed out on me. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to share this with you. And this is from NPR. We don't know about the motive yet. Could the police have confiscated the shooter's guns? The shooter's parents believed their child had sold Hale's only gun and didn't have any firearms at home. Drake is the police chief in Nashville. In actuality, Hale had legally purchased 7 firearms from 5 local gun stores. 3 of those weapons, including 2 assault-style firearms, were used in the shooting. Hale was under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder, Drake said, but law enforcement knows nothing about the treatment. In some states, a red flag law empowers law enforcement to confiscate weapons from individuals due to mental illness or concerns from relatives. That's not quite the case in Tennessee. Police can take someone's gun if a court deems the person mentally incompetent if the individual is judicially committed to a mental institution or if the person is placed under a conservatorship. Similarly, being under a doctor's care alone wouldn't have met the threshold to prohibit the sale of weapons to hell. When it comes to emotional disorders, Tennessee law prohibits the sale of guns to only those individuals found by a court to pose a danger to themselves or others. So, in fact, in Tennessee, it's very hard to stop the sale of guns to someone. Relatives reporting that someone is making threats of violence, even a therapist or a mental health professional reporting this is not enough. It's going to take a court order, which realistically is probably not going to happen without some action on the part of the person anyway. So that is where we stand in my state. I would love to hear if anybody else is aware of how the laws stand where they are in terms of reporting an individual who might be planning a violent act. If there's any good way of stopping them. And I'm going to share one more article with you. Here we go. And this one comes from the American Association of Medical Colleges. It's a opinion piece saying it's tempting to say that gun violence is about mental illness. And we scroll down. Mental illness is quite common in the U.S. In 2020, approximately 20% of U.S. adults met criteria for at least one psychiatric diagnosis in the previous year, and 6%, 14 million individuals, had a serious impairing mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major impression. Given that so many individuals have a mental health diagnosis and the large majority of those individuals are never violent, psychiatric illness is too blunt an instrument to serve as a useful indicator of violence risk. Indeed, if serious mental illnesses suddenly disappeared, violence would only decrease by about 4%. More than 90% of violent incidents, including homicides, would still occur. Even mass shooters, who might seem most likely to be driven by mental illness, don't necessarily suffer from major psychiatric disorders. Arguably, one of the best such reports on the topic, conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, found only that 25% of such assailants had a diagnosed mental illness. Although it's difficult to obtain precise data on the gun prohibited status of every mass shooter, less than 5% of these individuals had a record of a gun disqualifying mental health adjudication, such as involuntary commitment to a mental health facility. Meanwhile, why did he kill all those people is so compelling a question that it seems to demand an answer. If mental illness isn't usually the cause, what is? The honest response from science is we don't know all that much. Sometimes a stew of alienation and resentful anger is directed against a dehumanized other is at play. In rare instances, acute psychotic symptoms such as paranoid delusions contribute. In addition, crisis trauma and significant personal loss are common to some assailants, but those factors ultimately reveal little since they are shared by many people who never engage in a mass shooting. So, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. The question is, what can we do about this unique phenomenon? I think removing assault weapons helps. It's not the only thing we need to do. It's not, but it is part of what we need to do. Better mental health care might help in some instances. Why, thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. Ed says this has been informative. People say a lot of times better mental health care is necessary, and it's certainly a huge gap in our society, but that may not be what's needed here. And like I mentioned earlier, we have what a friend of mine and I call gun worship in our society, where people seem to be fetishizing, owning lots and lots and lots of weapons because they can, because it makes them feel powerful or important. Good morning, Magic. It's good evening here, but good morning to you wherever you are. And I think that's the root. That is probably the root of the problem, is why, and the question is, why does this happen here? Because it is a uniquely American problem. But like I said, I'm a pissed off grandmother. I don't like it that my grandkids know what they're supposed to do in case of a school shooting. Full stop. And the fact that when we go out, go to the mall, go out to eat, go to a concert, go out dancing at a club, go work out at a fitness center. The list goes on and on. I mean, why aren't we safe? So that's my question, is what can we do as a society to address this? Because we have to do something. So I'm a little over time here. You can certainly email me at witchrisingpwtv@gmail. Leave comments for me at Witch Rising on Facebook. Thank you, everyone who's been watching and commenting. I appreciate it. And I will be back next Sunday at 9 Eastern US, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, and 6 Pacific. And Bradley, one last comment from Bradley. Private gun sales don't require a background check in Oklahoma. It's the gun show loophole. You go to one and purchase a gun. No paperwork required. Oklahoma does not require guns to be registered. Yes, the gun show loophole really does need to be closed. There's got to be a way to address that. And once more, thank you all for coming. I will see you next week, and blessed be.
Witch Rising. Reverend Mary Hawk. Purple Goddess by Reverend Don Lewis. Angry Uterus by Carrie Wagner. Announcer, Don Hawk. Music written and performed by Don Hawk. In loving memory of Mary Frankie Clark.